Yeah,
now.
shaking.
Recording.
Listen. This Mike's movie podcast featuring Evan, special guest Adam. I don't even care. What does it matter? This is whatever.
Well,
This is all kind of what are we doing here? What is this doesn't mean anything.
I fired
No,
Adam.
remember, there's something we were supposed to start the podcast with that didn't end up on the recording last time. I remember.
Yeah. On that one, I'm afraid I don't recall. Yeah.
He says he doesn't recall. Look, first of all, I fired Adam earlier for bad Zoom connection. He somehow managed to make his way back. So we'll see if his technology can keep him afloat.
Yeah.
We did have a key unrecorded quote from Mike, and I knew when he said it last week that it was something special that probably wasn't going to get recorded. But you know, I'll be praying throughout this podcast that it does happen. But
yeah, maybe it will, maybe it won't. Listen, we're doing Baby's Day Out. That's what we're doing. That's the podcast. And listen, I don't know where my boo-boo is, but I'm looking for it. Do you know where it is?
Mike's looking for his boo-boo. Yeah. I thought it was funny that you said last night when we were confirming the time, I will see you babies then. I'll see you babies tomorrow or whatever. I like that. I like the idea that we had babies.
You guys know I have an important announcement to get in at the top, which is just already, this might be a really popular episode because I was recently shouted out on a real podcast that makes money in regard to podcasting. Specifically, my good buddy Gray, who runs Chondritic Sound and makes music as Hive Mind, was interviewed about his podcast, Noise Extra, formerly the Merzcast, on a different, even more popular podcast called White Centipede Noise. And I'm saying popular in terms of number of Patreon people that pay money for podcasts. And they asked him what made him want to start podcasting, what inspired him to do a Merzbow intensive focus podcast. And he says, well, my friend Adam Higgins sent me a podcast specifically about the Jim Varney Ernest movies. And that made me think about like doing a podcast that's just focused on one artist and their full works. So people are going to be Googling me and trying to find the podcast that my wisdom is bequeathed on. So this is... I just want to say, White Centipede Noise has 270 people on his Patreon. Noise Extra has 170 people on his Patreon. These are people that pay money for podcasts that now are going to be Googling who's Adam Higgins. We're going to find more about Adam Higgins.
But Adam, your name, that's not going to lead them to MMPC, as we talked about. None of our last names are hooked to the podcast.
Evan, you gotta do the.
We'll give it to my letterbox, which is where I am the only one that promotes this ever.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, good. That's great.
Well, and Evan, when you put this on YouTube, you got to give it a title, something like "Adam Higgins Destroys." Mike. Right. It's on that one, or heated debate between Adam Higgins and Mike about Baby's Day Out, and that's how you do it. Just we'll be plenty of views.
That's good to know. We got to bring our A game, which we do every time.
Yeah.
I, for one, am grateful to have this as a chaser for Shawshank Redemption because I prefer to be doing content like this over traditionally good movies. Although this is a good movie.
I'm egalitarian. I enjoy all of them. I think it's important to have balance in our lives.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You of all people, you're the only one who vetoes like a quarter of the suggestions just out of principle.
Shawshank is my idea.
No, I know, but that's not what I said. That's not what I said. I didn't say you veto Shawshank. You veto many things. So you're the least egalitarian of the three of us because you veto.
Yeah, but I only veto them because they're going to be boring, not because I'm like, I don't want to watch that kind of movie.
That's how I feel about Shawshank Redemption. I didn't veto it. So I'm egalitarian. The point I'm making is I'm egalitarian and you are conservative, draconian, fascist, whatever.
Well, I don't even remember. What are some ones I vetoed? I know I do it, but I don't even remember which ones I vetoed.
Well, I don't remember. What, Mike?
I was gonna say I would have to go through the threads to see which ones were vetoed. I know that you vetoed a while back. I suggested. Pardon me.
But as you can see, Your Honor, there's no evidence to back up these accusations.
You know it's true though. I mean, like,
Oh, there's one I remember I suggested because I mean, given that like Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2 keep on coming up on this podcast, I know at that time that I suggested that,
Yeah,
that you do.
shot.
I just
So-
don't.
What
But
was-
like, it's not because I don't want to watch that type of movie. I would do a whole SNL movie series, just specifically those ones. I'm not that particular movie. I'm not enthusiastic about rewatching. But
And
like
so how do we
Evan was
square
saying,
that?
this kind of movie, that kind of movie. I'm like, any kind of movie I'm fine with. There's certain examples of a kind of movie that I'm less enthusiastic about, but there's no kind of movie that I don't want to do a podcast about.
I want to say I think that I think that one movie that I recently maybe I'm inventing memories because my brain is turning to slurry is Titanic. I think was one that I also suggested. Although that may have just been a good old fashioned discussion that died in committee before being taken to a floor vote. So
I also would believe that I would not want to rewatch that.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Steve Cameron.
Any superhero Marvel movies, anything on Netflix.
I would happily rewatch Shaquille O'Neal's Steel. Great superhero movie, which I think that is. I forget whether that's Marvel or DC technically, but there would still be an example of those movies that I would watch.
They just keep cranking them out. You guys, I went to see Jurassic Park last night in the theater just for grins with a friend, and I gotta say, recency bias, of course, but like, there's just nothing wrong with that movie. It's as close to perfect as it gets. The one slight dig I had was a Laura Dern related qualm, but I went there and it was a packed house. And we saw those dinos, and that's the end of the story.
What was the Laura Dern qualm?
I think that the writing done for her was overly ambitious given her level of talent.
Whoa. You mean like you don't think she could even like do the dialogue believably?
Some of the more dramatic scenes she was asked to do, I thought was above her pay grade. Yeah, I think she should have kept to simpler lines.
She's one of the better actors in the movie.
No. Strong disagree. That's not believable. When she's crying and eating the ice cream, talking to John Hammond, not good. When she's running, I mean, there's just a few. She's fine. She does fine. She fits the role really well. She looks right for the part. I just wasn't all in on some of her lines.
I like the idea that she looks the part because I'm really into the idea that there's like a phenotype of like scientists.
Botanist? Yeah, no, there is. I realized that last night. The movie.
I mean, Laura Dern's hot, so I would say that's a flattering phenotypic stereotype for nerd scientist lady. I guess because she's kind of like
she's got a kind of like what's the word? A more tranquil beauty, and I know that.
I know what you mean, but I'm curious, just for comparison, what the opposite of tranquil, like chaotic beauty, like what do you differentiate?
Something more intense.
Wait, Adam, are you getting into like the Dungeons and Dragons like neutral like beauty?
Like who would be like, and then so just for my own comparison, what's an example of someone that's a not tranquil beauty? I have to guess what you would say.
No, I'm talking about someone who's more like intensely attractive. I don't think she's just kind of like the nice to look
like a soft diss. Because it sounds tranquil beauty sounds flattering, but you're saying that means not as beautiful as someone who's intense.
Not necessarily. No.
You're saying though, Evan, when Laura Dern is on screen, Beautiful Girls by Van Halen does not start playing in your head.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I hear like a nice quartet, a string quartet, a very low volume. That's very pleasant. She's a classy broad.
Okay, so Evan,
she's that. I'm not that into her. But
Evan, okay, so you saw Jurassic Park, and was this 3D at Alamo Drafthouse?
it was, but I gotta put Adam. You got to get closer to the mic. It's the volume differential is like too crazy.
Oh, I think it's because the EQ pedal was in front of it. Let me just adjust my here because I was using it to prop the phone up, but now I realize does this sound better already?
Sounds 100% better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Evan, what was your
in there? If it falls down, cross that bridge when you come to it. I wanted to say that Evan's copying me because I was talking about how Jurassic Park was a better movie. Jurassic Park came up in the last episode, and I was ranking it as we're talking about best movies of the '90s.
Yeah,
and I was throwing that out there, and you guys were poo-pooing it, and then Evan's gonna go and say it's the best movie.
Oh, I didn't say it was the best movie. I said it's as close to perfect as a movie can get.
Yeah, those things sound totally unrelated. It's a good clarification.
They are very different statements. You can have something. This is why you need to pay attention to our quantitative analyses that we do, because
yeah. Well, so Evan, a question though for you. So, would you say that maybe Jurassic Park? Stick with me on this one. Maybe it's not the best movie of the '90s, but is it the coolest?
No, because that would go to T2,
which is both the coolest and the best. Is that effect?
Right. Yeah, but JP is special because I actually got to see that one in the theater, and it's it's deep. It doesn't really need to be talked about. It was fun to go see it. I did wish that it wasn't in 3D, but that's just the way it is. Those fucking things give me a headache.
I mean, yeah, any movie that wasn't filmed in 3D, it's bullshit when they post-converted to 3D. They shouldn't do it. And like maybe when they first tried doing that, they were like, "Hey, who knows? Maybe this would be cool." They know it sucks now, and like anyone that shows it now is really being an idiot because everyone has known that it's bad tech that no one likes for decades.
It's just a gimmick. It just makes people say, "Oh, hey," but it doesn't actually. Like my experience watching this movie in 3D was like the same as watching it in 2D, except I was wearing glasses and had a headache. And I don't recall anything. There was not a single scene that was better because it was in fake 3D. You don't feel like they're in their 3D. It was kind of just whatever. But
yeah, so it's not like when the T-Rex is running at you in 3D, people are.
Well, that's what I was looking for, right? Like this is the chase scene where it gets close to the rearview mirror, but no, it's not.
Yeah. It's like it's 3D dead, more or less, because I do remember when Avatar came out that I'd seeing that in 3D at IMAX, and I enjoyed that a lot. And that seemed to be like kind of the era where like 3D was like kind of more of a thing that like people were trying to do. And I can't think of any like big releases that are like 3D anymore.
Just new Avatar. That's the next one, basically.
Yeah. So anyway, so with let's see here. I'm just trying to think if there's any sort of like 6 degrees of separation from Jurassic Park to John Hughes that I could think of, but I'm kind of blanking at the moment. Fill me in if there's anything I'm missing. But to get to this movie, okay. So I want to say that we have back-to-back weeks where we're having somewhat unconventional ways of watching movies. So I know Evan, last week you did not watch Shawshank Redemption. I will
No, I didn't.
For this week, I will say with Baby's Day Out, this was the worst effort that I've had for watching a movie, even though I technically was present for, I believe, the entire runtime. So I watched like 45 minutes of it last night before I went to sleep. And then this morning, I had it on, and I will confess that there was a solid 30 minutes of that where I was just like kind of on my phone and just like glancing up on the screen. So, but I think I got the gist of it. I still have some notes of it, but I will just say that's where we're at.
Hospitalize you because that's so insane to me.
I could not hear the first thing that you said, Adam.
Yeah, Adam, this is no good.
I don't know what's going on. It's the same phone, same shit I was doing. Let me blow.
Perfect.
Is that better?
Yeah, try now.
How about now? Is this better?
This is for now. Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought I was going to call an ambulance because I'm worried for your health. That was your reaction to this movie. Would you say that because I feel like I can't really remember. Have you never liked this kind of movie, or are you just not really feeling this now?
Yeah, I think it's something where it's just like I'm just like not feeling it now is where I'm at. So this here Sunday, August 27th. This is a zeitgeist capturing thing. I mean, I would say it's kind of like similar to when you're in high school and you have like a birthday cake and you're like, wow, this is a great birthday cake, and then someone's like, do you want a Mountain Dew? And you're like, even though I love cake and I love Mountain Dew, it's like I don't want a Mountain Dew right now. And that's kind of the analogy that I would
So
draw
is this the cake
right
or the
there.
Mountain Dew?
Pardon me?
Is the cake or the Mountain Dew? Is Baby's Day Out the cake or
Well,
the
it's
Mountain
kind,
Dew?
it's kind of it's really the beauty of the analogy that I have there is it's really interchangeable. It's like you could have like the Mountain Dew and then cake, and then the cake and the Mountain Dew. It's just when you have something super duper sweet, you don't want to have something super duper sweet afterwards. So it's kind of the idea there. So right now that's where that's where I'm at. With
Then
that.
what is the other thing? Like whether it's cake or Mountain Dew, what is the other thing that it's not meshing with right now?
His work
The-
stress.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. This like yeah.
It's sort of
Kind of.
like it's sort of like where the female baboon is expected to present herself for mating, and she's not an estrus, and it's
Yeah.
like that's kind of how it is. Like when your anus just isn't ready, even if it's a big beautiful cock like Baby's Day Out. Yeah, sometimes you're just not prepared, and it hurts to watch it. It hurts to take that when you're not receptive. So
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what,
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with I forget the word Mike uses for it, but like the day before you go back to work feeling. And I
Yeah,
gotta
Sunday
tell you,
Scaries.
a reason that it'll take a whole lot to get me to quit the job I have now is I don't get that. And now that I don't have that with the job I have,
Yeah.
I would rather die than have a job where I feel like that every week, because that's a fucking nightmare. For many years of my life, I thought, well, that's just how it is. You have a job that you hate and you dread it for half the weekend. But now that I have a job I just don't think about over the weekend, I'm like, thank God. No amount of money would make me go back to not being able to enjoy Baby's Day Out on a Sunday afternoon. Unacceptable.
Yeah, this is like turning into like maybe a therapy session, or like kind of like a moment of clarity here of like what am I doing? Like what's going on? Yeah, no, but if you have a job where like you don't have the Sunday Scaries, you don't have the work funkies, you're just kind of like, I'm gonna clock in, clock out, and I'm gonna be able to live my life in the free time. Yeah, you hold on to that as long as you can, Adam.
Have you had jobs where you don't have that? Because literally for like decades, I only had jobs like that, and I just assumed that was how it was for everybody always.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, have I had jobs like that before? I mean, yeah, there have been sports. It's been a little while, but yeah, I mean, I have had that. I mean, no, the trade off is like the jobs that I've had are the ones that like pay like $8 an hour. So that like leads to its own other stress outside of that. But yeah, and there's a fire truck going outside my apartment window right now.
I don't really get that for work. I get it for the social stuff I'm committed to in the evenings. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like,
all the galas and the balls.
no, I wish if it were galas and balls, I'd be psyched. But it's usually something like an AA meeting or I'm supposed to hang out with a friend or have dinner. And it's not that I don't want to see them. It's just like, man, I just want to have nothing. I want to have nothing, and so I'm dreading it. And but I also my mind is firing with input that I won't be able to get it all out. But one, I'm curious as to how, because I would bet that it's a mix, right? So some of Mike's not enjoying the movie is due to Sunday Scaries. Some of it, I think, though, might just be due to the fact that he doesn't like it, and I'm curious about that.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's a good question, and like kind of a good thought is that it's like, again, maybe it's a timing thing, but like I will say sometimes too, I will say it's when I'm at my most funky. I think that sometimes maybe that's when I'm also at my most genuine and whatnot. And there were like some scenes in there where I was just like, get on with it. Like this is just like, okay, whatever. I've seen this a million times before. So stuff that I think that maybe previously I maybe would have enjoyed if I saw it the first time. but like some of the scenes I just found them to be like totally tedious. So like when they were like at the when they had the police officers and there was like the lighter under the blanket and whatnot, like that's one where I'm like, okay, whatever, okay, great.
Usually my favorite scene of the movie by
What?
a wide margin.
So
Yeah.
I think though that's a different context. So like I would bet that when Adam and I watched that scene, so I laughed my ass off throughout this movie this
I
morning.
rewatched it. I had to go back and see it again.
Even
Yeah.
though I've seen it 200 times, that's not an exaggeration. And the lighting the dick on fire thing is like, yes, it's super tedious. And obviously everybody behind the cameras know it. And they're just like, yeah, we're going to do another one of these, you know, like this time it's Joe Mantegna on a bench and a baby. And it's just executed like perfect.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a Beethoven symphony being played by like the best Philharmonic orchestra in the world. You know what I mean? It's like, man, that London symphony really fucking knocked it out of the park. Joe Mantegna and the baby are like the London symphony to me, playing Beethoven's Fifth.
When so like I love that scene. I love like it to me the duration is part of it, and like I remember that scene. It's a very famous scene, but I had forgotten that it culminates in the crescendo of his crotch getting stomped, which also goes on forever. And so like I was ready for the crotch burning. I was like, here we go, here comes the crotch burning. But I had forgotten the crotch stomping. And so that really took me to cloud nine. But what I want to ask is, so you think that I understand what you're saying. These what you're describing are objective truths about this movie. However, you think this is worse than Meet Wally Sparks in that department?
Oh, so wait, where's Wally? Like, how's the Wally Sparks comparison coming in?
Because it also is a very stupid movie that hammers tedious jokes into the ground. And we watched it recently, and you've thus far indicated this is a more difficult experience for you than Meet Wally Sparks. So I'm trying to see how Wally Sparks' tedious, repetitive, dead horse beating comedy compares to similar comedy in this movie.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, and I promise I'm not trying to be obtuse here, but are we talking about when we make the comparison? Are we talking about like the overall quality of like start to finish Meet Wally Sparks, and or just the jokes and whatnot that like kind of like the slapstick jokes that we have?
I'm specifically talking about what you brought up, where it starts and you're like, okay, I know what's going on here. And you're kind of like, let's get on with it. But the movie's like, no, we will not get on with it. This is the movie. We're going to just do this for a long time. For whatever the joke is, you know, because I feel like Me, Wally Sparks is the most recent example of a movie that similarly is like, nope, we're going to fucking hammer this dumb joke for 5 minutes, even though you got it in 10 seconds.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So like in terms of the comparison here, and so like looking at the actual like production and like the scenes in the movie, I think that like objectively and unequivocally that Wally Sparks is just, but no, I'm just kidding. That Baby's Day Out is the better of the two. So like that the scene that I'm talking about when they are in the park, and then you know there's the and the lighter and whatnot. Just like that, like everything like about that scene, like how it's put together and like how it progresses, how it develops and whatnot, and how it crescendos. I mean, yeah, and that's a very well executed scene. And yeah, so that is just like way more polished is the word I'm looking for than anything at any point in Meet Wally Sparks. So like no question about it. I was just it was coming down to it's just like I was just like not in the mood, just not feeling it. So I'm gonna maybe have to like rewatch this when I'm when I'm on cloud nine. But yeah, I mean to answer your question though, it's like yeah, like we no question like all of the set pieces there, and even like getting into the end of the movie of like when they are at the construction site again, like that whole scene there was a very polished, well put together scene, and I just didn't enjoy it.
That reminds me that it's very evident, especially in the construction scene you're talking about, the emphasis of like the stunts and like effects involved in this, which reminds me, I meant to say when you asked if there was a 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon with Jurassic Park, there is, because I was like, who the fuck is this guy whose name I don't know that directed this? And it's some fucking Industrial Light and Magic special effects guy that like segued into directing. He did this, and there's one other Penis Boys movie he did.
Space Invaders.
No. He did that, but like, let me see here.
He did Space Invaders.
Angus. He did Angus.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he didn't work on Jurassic Park, but he was an Industrial Light and Magic guy in the 90s. So there is a loose connective tissue between the two Jurassic Park.
Everything is connected. Actually, and you know what? Though this is something where I'm going to try. Maybe it's that my second cup of coffee. It's giving me the giving me the endorphins that I need. I will say that construction scene that we had, which again I was just kind of like just right in the struggle bus. But that construction scene, I think that scene looked great, and I think that like if there was a movie to be made today, I don't think that it would look good as that scene on the construction site. Just everything that happened with the beam and whatnot. I think it looked realistic, and like you had a good sense of like place and distance and whatnot. So I think that just the way that scene was shot and executed and what they were trying to do, I think from that perspective, I think it was flawless. So like I think there is a lot of like kind of some of those set pieces there, which were flawless there. So I do have positive things to say about the movie.
I honestly just feel bad that you didn't enjoy it. For me, it was a jubilant celebration. As soon as you texted that you weren't enjoying it, I was like, man, it's really bumming me out for my on your behalf. Yeah, because I had already enjoyed it multiple times in 24 hours. So to hear that someone else was unable to even enjoy a sliver of the sweet fruit of Baby's Day Out was just making me weep.
I felt the same way, and I was also just like legitimately like curious and about like, wow, how can that happen? Because to me there are just so many scenes. Like I like the dick lighting scene, but to me every scene is just incredibly funny and engaging. Even the dumb scenes with the parents in the house are funny because of how fucked up like this idea of a wealthy family with the special baby, and like all the little class things that are in the movie are funny because it's like it's clear they're trying to make some half-assed attempt to resolve the like inherent class struggle, like but they don't really do a good job, right? Like this whole message that they're trying to have was like, hey, like everybody's equal when it comes to loving their child. It's like, well, yeah, but this baby
was that idea, because so there were some scenes like on that part of the movie that did stick out. So when like Laura Flynn Boyle's talking to Cynthia Nixon, and she's I can't remember the exact dialogue, but like on that one but like is it something to the effect of like, oh, Cynthia Nixon, the nanny says like, oh, I don't understand this, and then Laura Flynn Boyle's like, oh, like you love him just as much as I do, or something like that. Was that? Yeah.
But get in the back, but yeah, right. Or go down to your quarters or whatever. But to me, that's all just funny. I mean, it's all part of the cheap, you know.
But scene related to that's confusing to me is there's a scene that starts off great because classic big dumb guy character actor Mike Starr calls in with the tip, and they have to bribe him, and he's like, over there, the baby's over there on the second floor, and then they go over there and it's just a lady with her own babies, and I was like, are we supposed to think Mike Starr just saw babies and decided to call and pretend? Because that's a scene that gets to what Evan's talking about, where that lady's like, where they're like, sorry that we brought the cops in and like picked up your baby and there was nothing wrong. And she's like, it's okay. I understand as well what it would be like if I didn't have my baby. And I'm like, I get that that's the thing they're trying to do, but like, how do they not go back to Mike Starr and be like, give us your money back? There's just a lady with her babies over there. Like I was kind of hoping it'd be better if there was a different baby kidnapping and they didn't care because it wasn't a rich baby. That would be funnier if they were like, oh yeah, this is a baby kidnapping, but it's not a rich baby, so we're going to go on and look for the rich baby. But it's not. That's not what the movie does.
Yeah,
exactly. And but I think 90% of the scenes to me are just like infinitely rewatchable because the Three Stooge presentation is just perfect. Again, it's like the symphony. Those three guys, and I gotta say, the one dude who I know the least, the blonde flat top guy, he's the fucking funniest one in there. I mean, like of the three of them, he to me is
They're all great. I think Joe Pantoliano is the funniest. I think because Joe Pantoliano is going the most like inappropriately realistic with it. The Joe Montana and the other guy are doing a really good cartoon job, but Joe Pantoliano kind of like sincerely being like, "Did a baby come off this bus? He was by himself," and like not making it be like as cartoony. That's funnier to me than the other two guys. But they're all virtuoso performances for sure.
Top two scenes in the movie for me. Number two is when Joe Pantoliano is reading the book and the flat top blonde guy is making fun of him. That's like amazing. The number one banger is Joe Pantoliano talking to the bus driver.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because he's actually like frantic. You're like, this could be a not comedy movie. So if you just look at his face in those scenes.
And he says, as soon as he says he was by himself, the look on the bus driver's face. That's so perfect. And yeah, I mean, like the slapstick shit is as good as it gets too. I mean, it's like it gives Home Alone a run for its money, I think. Like the way that I think it was Joe Pal, I can't remember which of the Three Stooges falls kind of like flat on the boards when he falls off the road.
Yeah, Joe Pantoliano, absolutely. One of the best shots in the movie.
It's amazing. Yeah, now I kind of like, it's weird because like this is the first time I've actually gotten a pick. I mean, not to sulk, but like, I
don't think that's true.
We never get to do
you want your boo-boo?
Yeah, I never get my boo-boo. And finally they threw me a bone. They threw me a baba. And yeah, I can't believe. Also, I was delighted. Usually I have to pay money to rent these movies because I don't use Tor and other illegal software. And Tor, I know what Tor is.
You're actually specifically forbidden to torrent using Tor because it fucks up the whole system. Well, but continue, sir.
Doesn't matter because this was free on Disney Plus.
I got to tell you, there's few things I hate more than when people call things you pay a monthly subscription for free.
I don't pay for it. I don't pay for it. It's included in my rent. So,
what?
Bada bing, bada boom.
You're renting.
I rent a guest house, so the guy who owns the house gives me his free streaming.
I just like to imagine one adult male saying to another adult male, "Well, as a bonus of this bachelor property, Disney Plus is included." And it would be,
exactly.
And I paid for it because I won't give the Disney Corporation a cent of my money.
Well, the guy has daughters, and so the daughters watch Disney Plus. But there's a lot of good stuff on Disney Plus. You should take a look. That's probably.
I go to Izzy's sister's house, and they have a baby. They have Disney Plus, and then I watch whatever dumb shit I need on Disney Plus.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on there.
But
yeah, so it was free for me, and that's good.
My first note, just going in order, is in the first scene when the guys kidnap the baby photographers. Their villain costumes really crack me up. They're wearing like leather duster jackets and black cowboy hats. And I was like, is this like the Columbine guys? Or like, that's such a, like, if you're going to kidnap them, there's no reason you need the cowboy hat, especially. But the leather duster is just going to like restrict your motion. It's just such a funny, ridiculous villain costume for them all to have coordinated. They all have matching black leather dusters and black cowboy hats. It's just so perfect to me. Well, that was a great discussion topic. Here's one that's actually a question. A thing that made me wonder, there's a shot in the beginning where they're getting the baby ready for the photo shoot, and they just have a close-up of its butt being powdered.
Adam, sorry for jumping in real quick. I honestly, the thing that you were talking about with the Cowboys, like part of the reason why I was silent was like, I generally have no recollection of that.
That's fine. I've already moved on. I've moved on. So there's the shot of the baby's butt getting powdered, and I, as the kind of guy I am, just have primal revulsion. And I'm curious, is that supposed to be funny or cute? Is the expected reaction to a baby's butt being powdered cute, funny, or both?
I think it's supposed to be cute. I will say I have the same revulsion towards that. But you do.
Yeah, it's so just bulbous and squishy. I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah,
the thing about this movie, and this is what makes a baby movie good, is that the baby doesn't matter. It's just like makeup. You don't even know they're wearing it. That's the best, you know, when a woman wears makeup, the women who are the best at wearing makeup, this is what they say, are the ones who make it look like they're not wearing any at all. That's like the same with the baby movie. The best baby movies, you barely even know the baby. And it's not so much that, but like the baby is just an innocuous canvas for the brilliant creativity of the other characters. And I'm always impressed when a child, even a baby, can be in a movie. I was actually making this comment to my friend Jill last night when we saw Jurassic Park. One of the things that makes Jurassic Park like an A+ rather than just an A is that the kid characters aren't that annoying. You know what I mean? Like they do a good job. Like they don't fuck it up by being obnoxious little chodes. And this baby kind of did that. And I was actually so impressed by it that I Googled the baby. You know, I wanted to see, of course, you know, who is this person? And that was also a funny little experience.
Because it's twins, right? I think I kind of did that, but abandoned because I lost interest.
It was boring at first, but I actually found a quote, a little bio that I would like to read. It's a short paragraph. So they're twins, and one of the twins, I didn't read a lot because, like I said, it was too boring. But Jacob Joseph Wharton, who's now 30. I looked at the actor's Wikigraphia. You know the Wikigraphia. It's, I guess, a fake Wikipedia where they give fake AI generated bios of the characters. And it says, I'm just going to read this paragraph. Jacob Joseph Wharton draws on his dual careers as an actor and a chef to generate a substantial sum of money. As of 2019, his net worth is thought to be around $100,000. The average American cook makes $15.66 per hour, or nearly $49,848 annually. Similarly, a chef earns roughly $58,848 annually.
Wow.
This is the bio of the kid.
You know, that's the kind of stuff when I said a lot of people are going to listen to this episode, we got to bring our A game. That's the kind of content that we're really going to reel them in with that.
I don't feel bad about it at all. I couldn't wait to read this. But anyway, the kid also did not turn out good. I mean, like he doesn't look right. So the baby, he looked cute as a baby. Not a good looking older gentleman.
I think I would say in general, in my only personal experience, I've done no statistical analysis in my life. I feel like anyone that like looked cute pre-puberty looks fucked up post-puberty. I think there's enough of a metamorphosis in puberty that if you look good before it, you're not going to look good after it.
No.
So that anyone who feels like an ugly duckling, just know you're going to be hot after puberty.
No, I would say so.
Yeah, and the opposite of you're a beautiful swan is like, hey, you've peaked.
No,
you're going down.
I was a gorgeous child, and now I'm even better. So.
I would also, just speaking of attractiveness, I gotta say, I personally have a huge boner for Laura Flynn Boyle, and it's incredible how this is like the least sexualized she's ever been in her entire life. She's 24. I was like, how are they making her look like such a, and like she only really has a character for the opening where she's fussy, and then she just like looks sad out a window for the rest of the movie. But they have her just dressed in the most bland. I was like, oh fuck yeah, Laura Flynn Boyle. And it's like she's in her prime, and this is like the end of her being in big movies. She was like on some boring TV show after this, but I was just like, wow, this really is amazing to make Laura Flynn Boyle.
I would take Laura Flynn Boyle over Laura Dern any day of the week.
I like them both. It's not a either or, but I also,
it's a competition. My boner didn't go down even for this movie, even though you're right that she wasn't.
No, I mean, me either. But I'm like, they're trying to stop it. The movie's trying to push it down, and it won't. But I'm like, but I see that you're trying. I feel the movie hitting it with a hammer, like the guy's foot stomping. The movie is the guy we don't know stomping Joe Mantegna's crotch, and I'm Joe Mantegna, and the fire in my crotch is Laura Flynn Boyle. I also have a boner for Cynthia Nixon, who they also go out of their way to make, not attractive. And that I did want to say, I'm going to assume given the age we all are, that you two, like me, at some point in your life, probably because of a girlfriend, have seen some Sex in the City. Is that true? You're loosely familiar with Sex in the City?
Yes.
Do you have a cast member, a core cast member of Sex and the City that you identify with most, or have you been made to take a quiz that tells you which one of them you are? Because I'm Cynthia Nixon, of course, and I think I know which ones you guys are, but I'm curious your respective opinions.
So this is a good good test here. So let me see if I can just remember them, because it's what. So Kim Davis is Charlotte, Cynthia Nixon is Miranda, Kim Cattrall is Samantha, and then Sarah Jessica Parker. I honestly am blanking on what the name of her character is, even though she's like the main one of the narrator.
Carrie.
Pardon me?
Carrie Brad.
On that one. And
Can I be Kim Cattrall?
You're Kim Cattrall.
Okay.
That's everyone on Earth has known that as long as you've been alive. But who Mike is? Don't say who you think Mike is.
I don't know who Mike is.
So like, but I have not seen. So honestly, actually, the last of Sex and the City that I saw was Sex and the City 2, the movie. I actually sat down and watched that.
I meant to, but I never saw that one because I heard it was like weirder and crazier than the first movie.
Yeah,
but I never.
So I think you probably enjoy watching it. I would have to say, if I was in that movie, just from the show, I think it'd be Charlotte is who I would be.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's you guys confirmed what I would say in our Sex and the City recasting. I'm glad we're all in agreement about who's who.
Wow, which is Charlotte. So I've never seen a single episode of Sex and the City or the movie. I know.
What's your problem?
You know, in the world of shit that women make men watch, there's like there's the Notebook, and then there's the Princess Bride, and I have always gotten the Princess Bride chicks. And
Bride is for children. That's not a thing adult women make men watch. So you're a pedophile.
Oh yeah, yes it is. Yes it is. I've had multiple instances.
Perhaps it is certain demographic.
Yeah, I don't know what says. I must be picking them from the wrong trough. I must be feeding from the wrong slop trough. If I'm getting,
I'll take Sex and the City would be my choice to watch of those.
I don't have anything
examples.
against it. I thought it was you. I've seen little snippets of it on HBO here and there, but it doesn't, whatever. I really don't like Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah.
Nobody does. She's the worst. That's why I wouldn't insult either of you by saying either of you would be Carrie.
Well, the thing I want to say, like, from the episodes of Sex and the City that I watched, I think one thing that I found to be grating, and I feel like Adam would just be, again, I said this in the text thread, like the Brian Thompson alien assassin, ice pick thing, is like Sarah Jessica Parker, like her narration has like just like so many puns in them, where I have to imagine that you'd be like watching that and it would just be like pure torture for you.
I mean, I hate her. She's the worst.
Yeah.
The number one thing you enjoy as a heterosexual man watching Sex and the City are the various male boyfriend actors that get to be in for an episode or two, because there are many extremely funny ones, and they knew how to pick them. There's a lot of great casting on that show. But yeah, Sarah Jessica Parker is the worst part. She's horrible. Everybody hates her.
Yeah.
Boo.
A very random one. I think like, at a very small part. I know that Michael Showalter had a small part in one of the episodes.
Yeah, I mean, Will Arnett isn't a really funny one where he like likes to get caught having sex. Kyle MacLachlan, of course.
I'm trying to think because I want to just make sure I understand how our personalities are mapping onto the characters. So I suspected I would be put with Kim Cattrall because I know she's kind of like the slutty one.
That's correct.
Yeah. Wow.
And I get the Mike Charlotte thing, because if I recall, Charlotte is kind of more the opposite. Is that right? Like more of the
way that they yeah, the way they say it, it's antithesis is the correct word here.
But I don't know enough about the so Adam, are you the one for who's the maid in Baby's Day Out because of it's like eccentric or something?
That's correct. She's the quirky one.
Got it. Okay, so Mike's a good person, Evan's a bad person, and Adam is just a quirky goofball, eccentric.
I'm the weird person.
But we're all getting laid on the show, that's all that matters. Is that really what it's about? Just these four broads, taking a bunch of loads?
Yeah, it's about dating in the city, like most sitcoms ever.
Yeah.
They're just get up and have brunch and brag about how much they swallowed the night before. You know, it's like
Isn't that basically what we do? I don't even get brunch.
We don't need brunch. My stomach's full. I can't possibly eat anymore. Make my eggs right.
We get our stomach pumped and talk about it. We go output, not input.
Yeah, exactly. Do they talk about that? How graphic are the blowjob discussions on sex? I'm really curious now. I'm probably gonna start watching.
There's no genital nudity.
Well, yeah. Is there? I can't remember like what level of nudity there is, if there's anything like topless scenes. I don't think there is though. And
I think butts. I think butts sometimes, and like humping. I would say butts and humping.
Can I ask a technical question though on this? And Adam, you might know in terms of like the rating system of this one. I feel like there have to be like some like level of description that you can have when you're talking about sex in order to like not have it be like NC, like whatever the TV, like TVMA or like TV NC-17, like can only be after like 10 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, oh, they say like I had sex last night versus like his erect, you know what I'm saying.
Remember?
Yeah, I mean, loosely softcore is the general term used for non-explicit sexual content.
Yeah, but like can explicit sexual content, does it have to be visual? Like if you say something like an erect penis penetrated a vagina, does that count as like explicit?
Yeah, no, that actually hits more explicit FCC obscenity laws to like explicitly describe it than showing things.
Yeah. So that is interesting. So I will say, Adam, like in my mind, I have you as like the resident like FCC expert.
Yeah, you know me, Adam Jack Valenti Higgins. That's what they call me. I bet. Do you guys know that when I lived in Los Angeles and I worked for a freelance theater technician, one of the theaters he like serviced that we would go to is the MPAA screening room, which is hidden inside a mall behind a locked door that isn't labeled. And like, because people really don't like them. They like cause a lot of problems, and it's got to be secret where they are when they watch the movies. But like, we would go, but it's just in a mall, like a normal movie theater. It's just not labeled. You go in an unlabeled door in a mall in the valley, and there's just like one screening room where all the grumpy old men jack off and write about it, whether they could jack off successfully or not.
The rating is based on how much time it took for them to release.
And, yeah, or how many times during the runtime
they could come during the movie. Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, because of Lara Flynn Boyle, I could probably get 2 out of Baby's Day Out, even though it's a baby movie. That's not a here nor there. I was thinking that what you just said about the what is it? The MM piece.
Yeah, the Mike Spooey podcast. The Mike Spooey podcast rating.
No. What's the rating agency called?
Oh, fuck. MPAA.
Well, now I think it's called the MPA because I think it's accepted to be global and it's not specifically American anymore because America rules the world.
That would make a really good. I've been listening to Michael Lewis's podcast, and he does podcasts about like referees and experts, and they're really good. And this would make an excellent addition.
You can Clockwork Orange me to listen to this.
That's why. And I'm only doing this to you because you do it to us constantly. But like at the beginning of the show, you said I'm the more egalitarian viewer, and then you continue. Even in this very episode, you continue to make like extremely like strong-minded. Like I would never watch that.
You know what? It's almost like that's what makes the show fun and funny. But you know what? You're right. Let's just actually have a real chat where no one's exaggerating anything.
I have tried so long who cares about funny? I want the truth. Okay. I want whoever's right.
Baby's Day Out. That could be.
I want whoever's right to win the argument and to have everybody know, which is a fool's errand. If you know people like me and Adam, nobody ever wins the argument, and that's part of the fun.
One argument I wanted to continue having is, so we all agree that Lara Flynn Boyle is hot. I am into Cynthia Nixon. I'm curious of your respective opinion of Cynthia Nixon in general. My question I had in my notes is, did they make her teeth weird to make her extra British in this movie? Or is she just moving her mouth weird to do the accent? Because her mouth looks different than before or after this. There's something weird going. I don't know if she had teeth work. There's something weird going on with her mouth in this movie.
She's not hot. She's not hot. Okay. I'm never gonna want to I'm not into the. It's if they're blonde, that's already a big strike against them for me.
She's not blonde.
Yeah, but she is in this movie, and she's not now. You like those kind of fair feature, fair skinned, kind of like albino
Right.
salamander looking women. You like that. You like it's like the Chloe Savini look.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the only other one I can think of. Name another one.
Well, dude, that's such a 9-year-old.
And they're both
That's such a 9.
That's just they're like me. Those are my people.
That's a very juvenile argumentation style to say.
Wow,
Like, oh, you
good.
just
You know
said
what
something. Give me exact. give me-
Describing them pejoratively rather than responding to them substantively. That's why.
Well, I don't like that style of aesthetic. For look, whatever. Who cares? Who the hell cares what women look like? I don't care. But for the sake
Wow.
of the show,
That should be the promo clip to promote this. Evan going, you know what? I don't care what women look like.
I don't. Who cares? I know which ones I prefer to look at more, but that doesn't matter.
Anyway, my next note is when they have their costumes as the baby photographers, both Joe Mantegna and the guy we don't know the name of have comedically absurd hat, facial hair combinations. But I legit believe that Wolfman mutton chop thing they put on Joe Pantoliano was his real facial hair. And I was shocked when he takes it off because his goatee is still really funny. But the mutton chops they add in totally work. And it doesn't read as like an over the top thing like the mustache goofball shit Joe Mantegna, the other guy.
But he does look. Joe Pantoliano looks really like creepy and criminal, and it's funny.
Well, sure. He just does, like, period, in his life.
Period, he does. Yeah,
exactly. Didn't even do extra.
That's why he's perfect for this movie. And the expressions on the butler's face, who kind of looks like Mike, actually. The butler looks like he could be Mike's uncle. And the expression on the butler's face when he opens the door for the three, very funny to me. And you are expecting us, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite. Joe Mantegna, besides the fire crotch, his performance pretending to be the fancy photographer is his best part of the movie. My favorite part about him in that scene is when they're changing the baby and he refers to the way they have the baby dressed up as a fruit suit. Yes. He's like, get him out of the fruit suit.
That fruit suit, the dead giveaway, he's a rich kid. I mean, and the fruit suit itself is very funny. I mean, like that's if I had a baby, I would make it wear shit like that because
the fruit suit?
Yeah. That purple teal fruits. I love that. I love that. I'm all for
it. You should try wearing clothes like that as an adult.
Well, it's kind of similar to Jack Nicholson's wardrobe in Batman.
True story. I learned frantically reading about Laura Flynn Boyle after watching this. She, around this time, was dating David Spade and broke up with him for Jack Nicholson, who they met smoking weed together.
Sounds very believable.
And David Spade didn't find out until they were in a car crash that the paparazzi photographed.
So I was among those young 10 to 12-year-old age boys who, back in those days, didn't have the internet, no access to any kind of sexual pornographic material whatsoever. So the closest you could get, I think it was 1995 or 6. She had recently married Jack Nicholson, and she was on the cover of Maxim magazine. And I don't remember how the fuck I was able to. I think my dad, as a recently divorced bachelor, acquired a subscription to Maxim. He would be ashamed for me. I think that's how we got it. Anyway, so we had the Laura Flynn Boyle, and I totally took that one downstairs to the basement and put it in a secret drawer. And that was where I had that. I had the Laura Flynn Boyle. Who is it? Christy Swanson and Jennifer Love Hewitt. And those are the three. Oh, that's all I needed. Just give me those three. I'm good.
Now, Christy Swanson, that's a blonde, generic McDonald's babe. That's the not for me kind of blonde lady.
I'm not saying look, it was about the cover. It was about the photo, like that particular issue of the magazine just, did the trick. And that's all there is to it. I wasn't like a big person, Christy Swanson person. I don't even know what she was. Buffy the Vampire. What the hell else did she even do?
Very little, because she's apparently crazy.
Yeah, she looks.
Oh, isn't she the girl that becomes a robot in the Wes Craven movie where she blows her head up with the basketball? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Deadly Friend. There's a movie where she has an abusive dad who murders her, and then her nerd guy that has a crush on her puts a robot inside her body, and then it's her, but she's supposed to be like a robot. and then she like takes revenge with her super robot strength. I think that's still Kristen. I think that's Kristen Swanson, but I could be wrong.
It is. But the other movie I was thinking of was The Chase with Charlie Sheen, which is probably why she was on the Maxim cover.
I thought there was Cindy Crawford in The Chase.
Huh?
Is she's the main girl, or she's just in that movie at some
She's
point?
the chick. She's the girl that he fucks in the
What
car.
am I thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of the Baldwin one. There's a Baldwin Crawford movie where the cover is similar to The Chase.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. I remember seeing that box at the Blockbuster and wanting to get it and knowing there was no chance in hell. But
you're like, well, I got a Laura Flynn Boyle on the Maxim in the basement. It's all good. We're all good.
We got a couple Maxims sitting in the basement. We're good to go, man. Friday night, 11 p.m.
Another note I have from the opening scene is when Joe Mantegna stops the guy from taking the stupid glass ball, which is the dumbest thing to think to steal, which is a really funny joke. He says, "Want to be a shoplifter? Go to JCPenney." And I wondered, like, is that product placement? Did JCPenney like approve or pay for them to be cited as the place to go shoplift? Or like, do you have to get permission for your major Hollywood movie to be like, hey, if you like shoplifting, go to fucking JCPenney?
We're having issues.
Well done. And my next note is when the guy's chewing his nails when they're like waiting with the baby and they're just waiting to like call in the ransom, and the guy's biting his nails, and then he's like, "Do you have to spit it?" I really like the line where he goes, "I don't know about you, but I don't eat pieces of my body."
That's like an exchange that I would have with one of my friends.
Yeah, perfect line. Perfect.
I'm a bit slow here, as we know. I just want to just go back one comment, Adam, about the whole JCPenney thing. Is that I just let you know the comment you're going to make about JCPenney going broke and bankrupt, that crossed my mind, and I was going to say the same thing, and you beat me to it.
What, they went broke because of this movie?
Yes,
I'm hypothesizing.
I
did not hear what you just said there, Adam.
Yeah, I don't think they went broke because of this movie though, because they were going strong for a long time after that.
Yeah, the fingernail scene. I will say that I can't remember the exact quote, but I thought that was some pure Joe Mantegna there as well. And he said something like, "Do you have to do that right here?" or something, like the way that he, like those comments, that type of comment that I had. I feel like Joe Mantegna is like the Babe Ruth of,
Mike. I agree, and I'm curious. So when you think about Joe Mantegna, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
What do you? I think you probably know the answer to that one without me even saying it. So what do you think is the first thing that comes to mind?
Fat Tony.
Yeah, exactly. that was it. And I was even thinking as I was watching that about like how the animation of Fat Tony, is pretty, kind of captures the essence of like Joe Mantegna and like what you think of when you see The Poise. But yeah, that is definitely it.
And when this movie came out, he had already been well into his Fat Tony days, right? I mean, like, and I feel like that's pretty much what put him on the map. I know he was in some stupid like Criminal Minds type show too, but I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, no, because Fat Tony. I think the first Fat Tony appearance, I think it would have been like season 3. So like he would have had like multiple appearances right now. The other one I will say that came to mind though is that Joe Mantegna was quite good in House of Games.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The David Mamet ones were the big ones in his first wave of shit. And if Evan hasn't seen House of Games, Evan would love House of Games.
Yeah.
Specifically Joe Mantegna in House of Games. You may be familiar with parts of it because Nick Mullen frequently quotes his angry monologue at the end of it on Come Town, or paraphrases the angry monologue at the end of it on Come Town.
Quick pause on that. So since we were talking about Jurassic Park and I saw it last night, do you listen to the Adam Friedland show stuff?
I'm behind, but in general, yes.
So on the most
Oh,
recent,
Michael McDonald singing the theme song. Yeah.
yeah,
was
that,
really
and then when he does his Jeff Goldblum impression in Jurassic Park, I mean,
he's done that before. That's a throwback, and he knows it. He doesn't do it a long time because he's done it so many times on Come Town. Michael McDonald singing the theme is a new thing, but Jeff Goldblum talking about having sex with the dinosaurs.
Okay, all right, good. I just wanted to make sure you saw it because it was a good contribution from that other podcast.
Yeah,
know what I'm saying. What else? So I feel like there's still a lot more. So I wanted to ask a question. The police chief who helps them get the baby or whatever, who actually really doesn't do jack shit. He doesn't do anything.
Are we talking about former presidential candidate Fred Dalton Thompson?
That's what we're talking about.
See, this is where I don't know. Is he
funny? Him and Cynthia Nixon both went on to political careers.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Movie.
Yeah, I had that same thought. Great minds think alike. And how do we know, Evan? Here's the thing. How do you know that Adam and I are not secretly the same person? That's, you know what I'm saying?
Kind of look alike.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to your last question. And Adam,
Mike put some fake earrings in, he could be me. No one would notice.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say for the record, we really need to invest in some audio equipment because we're really struggling today with the.
I'm gonna try taking the case off.
It's not just you; it's the whole fucking mix where whoever is like the loudest just totally goes over the other person.
Yeah, no, I concur with that one. I feel like the proliferation of podcasts these days probably comes with an increased supply in like audio equipment, so it probably wouldn't be that too expensive. Wait, Evan, but you mentioned that you had a Joe Montana question, which I want to get back to. You had another question after that. What was your question?
Yeah, so the guy who you just said his name, who was the police chief in Baby's Day Out.
Fred Thompson, yeah.
And I didn't look this up. Is he the bad guy / guy in the painting in Ghostbusters 2?
No.
Okay. All right.
Okay. He's in many other movies you've seen, but that's not one of them.
I know. I recognize him. Also, the other famous old guy that I wanted to mention is Duncan's toy chest owner in the war vet scene at the very end. You know this guy, curly white hair. Mike knows what I'm talking about. So he's the only Duncan from Duncan's Toy Chest. Home Alone 2, motherfucker. The old guy who owns the toy store, who gives for, that's a funny scene in the movie because Kevin spends like $5,000 at the toy store, and as a special gift, he gets some chintzy little ornament, and he gets the turtle doves, and that man is the last scene in the movie, one of the last scenes in the movie. And I thought no, in Baby's Day Out.
No, because they take the baby home and he reads Baby's Trip to China. That's the killer final joke.
I know that. I know. I said one of the last scenes. The last scene in the book is it's the second to last scene. He goes to the old folks' home. The war vet who first sees him and is goo gagaing with him. You, Mike. That is Duncan from Duncan's Toy Chest.
I'm getting that pulled up. Eddie Bracken is the name of the actor.
Old Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie Bracken. Everyone, want to go back? Yeah, I saw that too, and I was actually for the movie. He's at the final scene of it, and they showed him earlier in the movie as well. And I will say there are two things that didn't quite fit together. As intensely as I was watching this movie and studying it, and it's like kind of like going back and meticulously going over and reading about it, what I did not catch is that they kind of like showed him earlier, like watching it on TV. Didn't really get the significance of that. And then at the book too is like we kind of had like a stranger than fiction type scenario here, where like the plot of the movie echoes the book. The final scene when they were like all like kind of in the when the guys get arrested and whatnot, like that didn't like map to the book.
No, because that's basically they skip. It's funny because they basically gloss over it and just show the part when the family is like reunited, because they make them throw down the book and then they just like, yeah, then the family's happy. But you're right that they just like gloss over that part of the climax has no analog in the book. But my thoughts, my notes about how the whole movie is basically baby sees things in book, baby does things in book, is classic 90s, like, we can't have violence in things, people see it and then they do it. But also, in my opinion, predictive programming, which was not a popular thing back then, but specifically because there's the scene with the fucking gorilla, I would say that Baby's Day Out is predictive programming for the Harambe incident.
Remind me the Harambe. What happened?
If I remember correctly, a young child ended up in a gorilla enclosure, and out of fear for what the gorilla would do, the gorilla was killed. Yes. And it was controversial whether it was necessary force to kill the gorilla just because a baby was near it. Because they should know. Because as we see in this movie, the gorilla is nice to the baby, and this movie was supposed to implant that idea in our universal subconscious, but somehow it got fucked up, and they killed Harambe.
Holy shit! There's a bunch of pictures of this gorilla with the kid.
I know, and doesn't it fucking remind you of Baby's Day Out?
Well, the kid's much older.
Doesn't fucking matter.
The toddler.
I guess maybe that's the problem. It should have been a baby. If it was a baby, they would have been like, well, we all know Baby Day Out. He's going to be fine. But they were like, wow, it's a little too old. The gorilla's like him young. That one's too old. He's probably going to kill it. So we got to kill the gorilla.
Yeah. So you're just like Baby's Day Out. Society acted as the baby in Baby's Day Out.
Oh, also, remember the zoo scene with the gorilla in Old Dogs? The fake Burlington, Vermont zoo? Another classic, I believe it's Seth Green that the gorilla treats as a baby in Old Dogs.
Yeah. That's right.
And yeah, just speaking of other commonalities the movie shares, that's a more specific one. But in general, our shared favorite part of, the goons getting fucked up just made me think of, I want sometime when I'm retired and I have time for these important projects that I conceptualize and don't follow through on, I will make a extended edit called Goon Mugging, which will just be goons doing reaction shots to some crotch damage or violence perpetrated, or getting, Nickelodeon slime, which happens a lot of this. I just would love to watch hours and hours of goons getting violence perpetrated on them and making ridiculous mugging faces.
Well, what's interesting about that is that it's the kind of thing where it can be done well and be really funny, and it can also be done poorly and be really funny, right? So I'm just thinking about the Home Alone thing, right? To me, it's just as funny to see the wizardry of Daniel Stern doing that, and Home Alone 4's French Stewart doing a very poor job of it.
They're different flavors, it's like a different grape from a different wine.
It's like it could be a whole 12-course meal. You have a spectrum of flavors and experiences,
and that's why it's going to be like a decade-long editing project. Because first you get all the footage, and then you sort it. You sort it by style, by era, by quality.
Yeah,
and then maybe it'll be like maybe at that point in time it'll be a multimedia VR experience where you pull through the different goons getting beat up, like Tom Cruise in Minority Report.
Yeah, I'm all for it, and I doubt I could add much, but I'm sure I could compile a list of my own that may or may not.
Yeah, Mike's eating. What are we eating, Mike?
What you got, dude?
Got some
white bread.
A piece of pretty much. Some garlic, Indian style flatbread from Trader Joe's. So.
Indian style. Oh yeah, did we all look at Wikipedia and see that like in Southeast Asia, this movie was like a massive hit, and they've like remade it in every country there? There's like 4 different remakes of this in like Southeast Asian countries, including India. One of them is just called James Bond.
What? Well, there
was also a video game where you play the baby's guardian angel that they canceled, but you can watch footage of on YouTube.
Oh, there was a video game.
It didn't come out, according to Wikipedia.
No, but I've seen somebody doing a playthrough.
I know, you can watch footage of it. People have it, but like you couldn't have bought it in the 90s.
Yeah, that wouldn't have done well. That wouldn't have done well. But why did this movie? This movie did well. I mean, like I fucking rented it multiple times. It was well known.
Yeah, let's look up the box office here. I haven't done this yet. Budget 48 million, box office 30 million. That seems fucked up. That doesn't seem right. The Wikipedia also claims it was maligned at the time, but became a cult classic. So maybe we're the people that made it a cult classic. I will say I don't think I saw it in theaters. I think this was a home video thing for me.
Absolutely right. So I guess that explains the box office thing. So maybe it hit on video. That's a thing that used to happen, right? I mean, like, sometimes the blockbuster release would be the thing. But like, how the hell did this cost $48 million? I want to know. Like, what is that all just for?
I mean, I will also say the Wikipedia has a lot of weird stuff about how like this was like the first movie with like a CGI skyline. And I'm like, I didn't even notice that. Who gives a fuck about the CGI skyline? But I do think they probably overspent on effects and stunts because like, think about that weird process shot when Joe Mantegna is just stuck on during sunset hanging on the thing where you're like, wow, what a beautiful shot that isn't really funny. And is, I guess it's kind of funny.
I like that shot. I mean,
I would get a tattoo of that shot.
Well, and that's one of the things I like about this movie is that I would watch it repeatedly, not just because it was funny, but because it was pacifying. Some movies have this quality of like they just go down so easy that you can take it anytime.
Unless you're Mike on Sunday, August 27th.
Yeah.
Well, Mike likes more challenging fare. We know that.
I'm really sorry, guys. I am tapping out here. I just can't. I just don't really have the energy at the moment. But I'm pleased. It seems like you have some pretty good energy going on here. So if you want to continue the dialogue and podcast in my absence,
we'll do the wrap up. We'll do the wrap up without you.
Okay.
Won't be the same.
Sounds good. Well, it's always great seeing everyone. For the Patreons, we got some special Evan and Adam content. So thank you for joining today, and I look forward to that one. Take it easy, Evan and Adam.
Bye.
Yeah. So that's a first. And
wow, my movie podcast history.
It's a live. There it goes. Let me see if I missed the text that I was supposed to. No, I didn't miss the text. Well, you just sometimes,
I think these morning ones are a bad idea. It's too early. Too early for me.
He picked the time.
I know.
I agree with you. I agree.
But anyway, to keep it to things that we can name on the podcast, I have a couple more notes I want to get through. One of my other favorite parts is there's more than one scene when the baby crosses a busy thoroughfare.
Yeah.
And Dodge Slugger style dodges cars, and nobody stops, slows down, swerves. I just like imagine what that would actually look like if they didn't film it from like baby perspective. Like if you just filmed the street and a baby went out and cars just were fucking still cooking. That's just so funny to me that like no one even is like you would think it would be more chaotic to have someone slam on the brakes or swerve, but they're like, no, we're just fucking ignoring that. But a lot of the movie is like the predicated on like a completely insane level of people being oblivious to a baby in a public scenario. Like you wouldn't notice a baby in your purse, like an entire 2-year-old baby in your purse. Anyway, I just really like to imagine people being that disrespectful to a baby in the road. Even like an animal in the road, people swerve more than the baby in this movie.
Well, we have talked about that before. We're in this sick new era where people like dogs more than humans. And
true. So maybe that was again predictive programming.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The people are just kind of like, well, it's Chicago, right? That was another thing I wanted to talk about. Like, that's the city. Is it Chicago?
Yeah, because fucking John Hughes. That's what John Hughes has the biggest boner for. Is Chicago the city?
Right. So in Chicago, I guess people...
No, it is life in Chirac. They don't care about babies in the street.
That's right. That's right. It's like a third world country. Chicago is a very popular place amongst my students. They all want to go there because,
weird.
Yeah, it is weird. They are told, I'm like, you guys aren't going to be able to fucking take it because the winter's no joke. You're not going to like it. because everybody lives in North Carolina is a complete pussy with the weather. But they want to go because there's a good amount of jobs for what they do, and it's cheap big city.
I mean, that is true. You can't really argue with that, but
I don't think.
yeah, I don't share John Hughes' boner for his hometown of Chicago.
Well, all his shit is in the suburbs usually. Wait, is John Hughes? Well, I didn't know John Hughes was affiliated with this movie. Is this a John Hughes thing?
He wrote it and produced it, yeah. He didn't direct it. And honestly, that was another thing I wanted to talk about. As an adult, revisiting John Hughes movies, my favorites are the ones he just wrote and produced and didn't direct, because those are the stupider ones. Anything he directed has a higher quotient of the emotional, schmaltzy cornball stuff. Whereas like the Dennis the Menace movie, what the fuck else? All the like dumb ones where he just wrote it. That's my favorite John Hughes. Yeah. Where like the schmaltzy stuff is at a minimum.
I concur, and I love Dennis the Menace. That's another one we should do. I still can't believe Mike didn't like this movie. He must be really fucking stressed out.
Yeah, I'm legitimately concerned for Mike.
I am too. No, yeah. I think he just worked like a 70-hour week or something like that. Because like this is the kind of thing, and I feel bad that he felt as like if I were in his shoes, I would just fucking cancel. I wouldn't watch it. So that just goes to show.
I mean, to me, this really just is a good time to watch and to do this. To me, like Mike was saying, like this is like a reward. This is the hot reward to your hard week.
But Mike, I have occasionally I'll have a weekend where I cannot really. The only relaxation that occurs is what is minimally necessary to restore focus for the rest of the work, and that does suck. I hear your point about finding a job that does not produce such conditions, but it's a trade-off. I mean, like, I don't think there is a job in the six figures that doesn't have some bullshit like that.
What do you need six figures for? Too much money.
It's not, dude. In Seattle, where he lives, that is not a lot of money. Dude, $100,000 is not a lot of monny. It totally depends on where you live. So you live in Vermont, yeah. That you don't need anything. You have a farm, for Christ's sake. All you got to do is go outside and pull an egg out of your chicken's ass, and you're good. You got breakfast. But no, yeah, no. I think they're hitting him pretty hard at work. But it was nice of him to come and show up, and of course we didn't get the goo goo gaga that we were hoping for.
Well, that'll be a moment where you just had to be there. And it never would have been the same as when it happened naturally and organically.
No, I couldn't. I was so tickled by it that I was chatting with, I guess it was Erica on the phone, and I told her that Mike had said it, and but that there was a low probability we were gonna ever hear it again.
Just because I only literally have, I think, 2 more notes. The one other note I had is when the baby first gets to the construction site and there's all the like slow motion construction iconography. I was like, this is like fetish footage for people into construction sites. It's like if Kenneth Anger's Scorpio Rising was about construction workers rather than like biker dudes, where it's just like, yeah, here's the tools in the truck and the sparks flying. But I just like the idea of like, because it is a thing I know from Izzy's niece. There is just something about big vehicles that babies are really enthusiastic about. And I just like the idea of like fetish content for baby interests, for pre-sexual fetish content, what it would be of, what it would be like. And I think that the construction footage in the beginnings of that scene of Baby's Day Out is an excellent example of that. And my only other note is a bigger picture thing, which is there's one of the emo scenes when Laura Flynn Boyle says to the husband, like, this time yesterday, all I wanted in the whole world was my baby's picture in the paper, but not like this, because it's like he's missing or whatever. And I was thinking about how in the Suspense is Killing Us podcast, they recently did the Truman Show and talked about how like the idea of like your life being a focus of public interest is totally different in the social media era. And I thought about how like her fixation on like people seeing her baby photo, just like how different the times are in terms of like, because the movie's kind of being like, yeah, maybe it's not good to care about like everyone's seeing your stupid fucking baby, you stupid bitch. But it's like, you know, I think that culturally the lesson was not received, and rather than like the newspaper, now everyone has their own newspaper, and we all get to see even more baby photos than if they had to. I want to go back to, you had to look at the newspaper, you want to see a baby photo, and you just don't get the newspaper, you don't see a baby photo.
You only saw the baby photos with money. You know, so now you got to see all kinds of ugly, poor babies.
I want those poor ass babies. I want the highfalutin. I want the caviar baby, champagne baby.
If your baby isn't wearing a fruit suit, what am I even doing here? I mean, why are we doing this? Why are we talking about this? Yeah, no, I have been relatively able to avoid seeing many baby photos. Although more recently I reactivated Facebook, which is harder to avoid them. It's hard.
What inspired that?
It's hard. Well, because the fucking Magic the Gathering place where I go to play posts their events on Facebook, and you know, people would be like, hey, you know, going to this and that, and it's like, and they can't just have a normal website. They're gonna it makes sense. I mean, like, why build a website and pay for a domain when you can just have a Facebook page?
Absolutely. Facebook is definitely on its last legs and is only for confused people and old people. Like, they should just have an Instagram.
So tell me more about that. So I would disagree with you, and this is a serious, interesting disagreement. So why do you think it's on its last legs?
Because like what you're talking about, this was a huge thing. Like, if you want to know about a show or events, it was always a Facebook event page. That if you didn't have a Facebook, because as someone that's never had Facebook, I vividly remember anytime someone's like, you got to check this out, and I click a link and it's like, make a Facebook, and I have like a primal anger response to the fact that I'm supposed to have an account there. That used to happen when we were in college. That would happen constantly. Everything was on Facebook. I don't remember the last time anyone even attempted to link me to something on Facebook. More recently, it was a thing at work, because I work with mostly younger people in their mid-20s, and like there was a funny thing at work where like two of my coworkers are dating, and people didn't know that because the old people only are on Facebook, and like one of them had abandoned their Facebook before they broke up with their last boyfriend. So if you're only on Facebook, you think they're still dating their old boyfriend, but like they just stopped using Facebook and they have a new boyfriend, and they were like, why are those two making out? Aren't they still together? And it's like, no, why? How do you not know that? They post photos all the time together. And it's like, oh, just not on Facebook. And I'm an old person. I'm only on Facebook. That's the basis for my assessment of Facebook's popularity.
Yeah, no, I think for younger people who are very active in social media as kind of a networking tool, then yeah, it's old. It's very old technology, but it's interesting. Like I'm doing this study. Like one of the projects I'm working on for my research is like, how do nonprofit groups engage with communities? And the large majority of that activity in terms of digital social media is all Facebook.
Yeah, because I got to tell you, the only nonprofit groups I interact with on social media are ones that my friends are involved with, and I follow and like things out of pity, because I'm like, no one gives a fuck about a nonprofit group on social media.
Well, this isn't even like, but it's a more specific than that. It's like we're looking specifically at like very poor, marginalized communities during, before and after natural disasters. So it's like Facebook is a tool that groups will use to like coordinate, share information. It's a real specific thing. But I do think that more people have Facebook accounts than any other social media, for sure.
I believe they have accounts, but I don't think like number of login and actually using it, I think, is what's down. Because yeah, I absolutely believe that they have the most accounts that are just sitting there.
What's the most popular?
I mean, I say we're in a tumultuous time for that. My guess, with no research, based again on what I have to click on to see things, is Instagram. Yeah. Twitter is definitely on the downswing. None of those other fake ones people try and get anybody on are ever going to happen. It's an absurd joke when like people are like, are you on Threads? Are you on Blue Sky? No one's ever going to go on that. I go there to squat on my account name and then never think about it again.
Yeah. I was going to say Instagram too. It's sad what has happened to Twitter.
It is.
It's a real bummer.
That's the better one.
You used to,
but it's not. But honestly, that's another thing where people bitch all the time, and I'm like, besides people complaining about it, my Twitter experience is basically the same. Like, it really has not changed my experience besides seeing the X that I click on. Everyone's like, oh my God, he keeps fucking with it. And I'm like, well, you always had to like act. It actually used to be harder to see a chronological thread of people you follow than it is now. You used to have to put like HTML into your like saved search stuff to like not have it promote tweets at you. So in that way, it's actually better than it was at some points in its existence.
Yeah, but the worst thing is that it's losing users. So you're seeing.
But I don't give a fuck. I follow like what 50 people, and the ones that are on there are on there. I don't give a fuck about a bunch of people I don't know about. I don't care if there's less users, if it's not the people. All I care about is the few people I interact with. They're still on there. They haven't stopped being on there, and they probably won't until it literally shuts down.
My biggest beef is that you used to be able to use the Twitter API. You could get an academic free license to use the API and scrape unlimited amounts of Twitter data. And now to do that, you have to pay an enormous sum of money. $5,000 a month gets you 1 million tweets, which actually isn't that many. So
boo-hoo, they won't give me my data for free. I don't have a real job.
It's an equity issue. You don't have a real job. What the fuck? I don't have a real job, so I have to scrape Twitter data all day. That's just what I do. And you know, hopefully one day I'll have so much of it that I can use it to get a job.
Take over the world.
Take over the world. Be just like Elon. My last note was just about the last scene with the China book, and sad that they didn't.
Good. I also forgot about that.
Yeah.
That would be. Can you fucking imagine if they'd made that the next year? If this had been a hit, it would be one of the greatest movies of all time.
I mean, that is the first thing I thought is like, oh, so it's probably been about 10, 15 years since I've watched this. And when I saw the China book scene, I literally said out loud, like, oh man, like look
what they took away from us.
Look what we could that would have been so great. This fucking 40-year-old guy, like, shit, man, they could have made that. So yeah, that's what I got on Baby's Day Out. And had a very dramatic episode here. We've covered a lot.
Yeah, how far in are we? How long is this?
I have no idea. We started it pretty promptly at 12:30, so we're a good hour and a half in.
Okay, so this isn't like a rip-off short duration. Because yeah, that's all my notes. I got through all my notes. I could keep going indefinitely, but that is all the official. But wait, no, I had one more note. I really laughed at the scene where they're trying to get the baby from the gorilla. And Joe Mantegna, it starts off by saying, I'm a banana, I'm a coconut. And then he escalates to, I'm the Jungle Boy.
You know, and that's one of those things where I can see whoever's directing just being like, you know what, this is where we just want to let Joe be Joe. And, you know, I'm going to be very hands off. He's a genius. He got a lot of work. And this is the decision he made, kind of like a Nick Cage thing where it's like, here's what I'm gonna say.
I'm the Jungle Boy.
I'm the Jungle Boy. Very good.
Oh wait, no, I have one last note. In the end, when they're looking for the baby after the zoo, before the construction site, the dumb guy whose name we don't remember says, like, maybe you went down a rabbit hole before he does go down the tunnel. But Joe Mantegna's response, which is very strange, is, want to make jokes? Join the circus.
Right.
I don't really think of jokes when I think of the circus. There's very little stand-up. I mean, maybe there's some slapstick that the clowns do, but want to make jokes, join the circus also feels potentially ad-lib for how nonsensical it is if you like think about it for like more than 1 second.
Yeah, I agree. And the rabbit hole thing is a particularly like bad / non-joke. Like, well, what is?
Well, it's only a setup. Then they're like, he did go down a rabbit hole, but then it isn't even a rabbit hole.
But why would he even say? Well, maybe he went down. It's kind of like not there. There isn't any context.
Yeah, no, it feels like a reference to something that we don't remember. That it might not be, but it feels like that. It feels like we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, you know how in 1994 we were all talking about going down the rabbit hole.
Right. But I mean, we weren't though. I was there.
No, I know. I don't think it is, but that's what it feels like. It feels like a missing pop culture reference, but I don't, as far as I remember, it's not.
I do think that 1994 was the sweet spot of the decade for movies and music and culture. That's my claim. And it was kind of,
I would say if you broaden it to mid 90s, I agree with that. I think you go like 94, 95.
sure, but I think by 96 it was starting to decline.
Yeah, I would say 94. I don't, and again, this is extemporaneous speculation. I don't have examples off the top of my head, but I generally agree, but I don't know if
it's okay. I think 94, I'm trying to think what else big was in 94. I mean, 93, obviously, Jurassic Park. Well, Lion King was 94. And
sure.
There was a Woodstock 94 that was very important.
Oh yeah, we all love that.
We did, man. I mean, it was Green Day throwing the mud and
Primus, that's all I cared about.
Primus, yeah. So I was recently rereading the history of Metallica. I regularly read the lore and
sure
their relationship with so I did not know that Kirk Hammett and Les Claypool went to high school together.
I wouldn't have remembered that, but when you say it, I've definitely read enough Primus bullshit as a teenager that information at some point passed in and out of my brain.
Yeah. It's weird, that little cluster of musical activity that was going on there, because I know that
because fucking Lair was in The Possessed.
Yeah.
Well,
and they auditioned Les Claypool to replace Cliff Burton.
Yeah,
and he was too good. Which makes sense. I don't think it was they say it's like he's too good. It was just like he was a different kind of musician. Like he was trying to play.
It's good it didn't happen. It would have been bad for everybody involved.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah, I mean, Jason Newsted did his thing on the next two records, and that's
fine. Did you see them on this tour that's happening? I've seen a couple people I am acquainted with hitting up the tour.
I'm not paying for that. I'm sorry, I just can't. Are they even? I think they are coming by me. That's actually
they were in LA like a night or two ago, which is when the people I know went, and I saw photos from it.
Yeah, and I've been looking at their set lists. I mean, they're playing good stuff for the most part. It's just that, like, so I was looking at getting Aerosmith tickets because Aerosmith's coming.
You do Aerosmith but not Metallica? What's the price differential in Aerosmith versus Metallica?
No, but that's the thing. These prices for these types of bands now are absurd. It's just absurd. You can't get the tickets, and if you can, let's just look here. So Phoenix, I don't even know if they're coming anywhere near me, man. Detroit, yeah, they're not even coming.
What's the biggest arena near you?
The biggest arena? Well, I mean,
the closest actual arena.
PNC in Raleigh, where the hockey team plays, and then there's
do they do shows there? Because it's going to be wherever the closest big arena is where they would go if they do go.
Yeah, but bands often skip the Carolinas. You know, they'll do.
Did Taylor Swift play that arena on the Eras tour?
We're not.
Where do they go?
It isn't about
if you're coming, if you're doing East Coast, where do they
go? It isn't about they don't go where there are big arenas. They go where there's a big market. So I don't know that Raleigh Durham counts as a big enough market, and I don't even know that Charlotte does. It did for Aerosmith. It depends on how many dates they're doing. It looks like this Metallica tour is a low date tour. They're not playing a shitload of shows, so they're not going to come to Raleigh. It doesn't even look like they're coming to like Atlanta.
Damn. So like Atlanta is the big deal city south. What's the big deal city north if you're not doing many that they go to?
Well, they may have already done some stuff. I see Los Angeles, Phoenix.
I mean, more generally, Metallica is a good example, but Detroit. But like that's so far. There's got to be some. What's like DC?
They're not even playing DC.
But like generally speaking, if it's a big tour, where do they go? Where do they skip Carolinas?
Yeah, DC or they'll Charlotte, North Carolina. The big metros are in the South are going to be, excluding Florida, is going to be Atlanta, DC, Nashville, and then Charlotte. And
Okay.
maybe Raleigh, Durham, followed maybe by Richmond. But those aren't real big markets. Like Richmond is the size of like Madison, maybe.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll play Moog Fest in Asheville.
Here you go.
They'll do an all sync set.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Metallica's going to cover Mr. Crowley at Moog Fest.
So the shittiest seats for Metallica are $225 a pop.
Which is honestly, I'm sure they're shitty seats, but for that big a show, that's kind of better than I would get.
They're playing at the baseball stadium. These are 2-day festivals, too, right? So like for this Metallica tour, these are 2-day shows. Yeah,
there's not too many songs. You gotta have multiple nights, and they're too old to do a long show.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're doing more of the Taylor Swift approach, a small number of dates.
Yeah, it's the Metallica Eras tour.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe I will look into getting some tickets. Well, I'm going to stop the recording.